The desert has always been a place of silence, of mystery, of secrets buried deeper than the sands themselves. But what if I told you that beneath these endless dunes, beneath the scorching sun and the wind that never stops whispering, lies a city? Not just any city, but a forgotten world, swallowed whole by time, and hidden away for thousands of years. Welcome to World's Echoes. If you love exploring hidden mysteries of our planet, subscribe now and join us, because what you're about to hear will change the way you look at deserts forever. The desert is one of the harshest environments on Earth. To most of us, it looks like an empty wasteland. Sand stretching endlessly in every direction, the heat shimmering on the horizon, the occasional lonely cactus or dune casting long shadows. It feels like nothing could possibly live here, much less thrive. And yet, deserts have a strange habit of guarding the past. Unlike jungles, where ruins are consumed by vines and swallowed whole by greenery, deserts preserve. They hide, yes, but they also protect. Stone walls, broken pillars, shattered statues, when buried under dry sand, can wait for centuries, even millennia, untouched. This is why some of the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time have come not from lush valleys or riverbanks, but from deserts. Think of the pyramids of Egypt, the Valley of the Kings, or the ruins of Mesopotamia. Civilizations that once flourished under the blazing sun, only to be abandoned, left to the mercy of shifting sands. But those are the ones we know about. What about the ones we don't? What about the cities so completely lost that history forgot their names? Imagine standing at the edge of the Sahara. The wind whips across your face, sand stinging your skin. You look out, and all you see is emptiness. But under your feet, somewhere deep below, there may be stone streets, abandoned homes, temples, and markets where life once bustled. Generations of men, women, and children once walked there, laughed there, prayed there. And now, they are ghosts, their stories erased, their walls buried. It's almost impossible to believe. And yet, it's real. Scientists, explorers, and archaeologists have long suspected that deserts across the world are hiding far more than we realize. Beneath the dunes of Arabia. Beneath the Sahara. Even beneath deserts in Central Asia and the Americas. Lost worlds wait in silence. Some were destroyed by nature. Some were abandoned because of war or famine. And some, perhaps the most intriguing of all, disappeared so completely that we are only beginning to rediscover them with modern technology. Take, for instance, the mysterious city of Ubar, sometimes called the Atlantis of the Sands. For centuries, it was spoken of in legends. A great trading city, a jewel in the desert, where merchants brought incense, spices, and treasures from across the known world. But then, it was gone. Swallowed, they said, by God's wrath. For generations, people believed it was only a myth. Until, in the late 20th century, satellite images revealed strange patterns beneath the sands of Oman. Archaeologists dug, and slowly, stones emerged. Walls. Foundations. Evidence of towers that once rose high. It wasn't a myth after all. Ubar had been real, and the desert had hidden it for over 1,000 years. But Ubar is just one story, one thread in the vast tapestry of lost desert civilizations. There are whispers of others. Cities erased by shifting dunes in the Sahara, where caravans once passed along ancient trade routes. Entire kingdoms that rose and fell, leaving behind nothing but fragments of pottery, scattered bones, and half-buried walls. Think about how fragile civilization really is. Today, we live in great cities of glass and steel, confident that they will stand forever. But the people of Ubar thought the same. The builders of Petra, carved into red cliffs, thought their legacy would endure forever. The pharaohs of Egypt believed their monuments would outlast eternity. And yet, time and sand have other plans. What would it take for our own cities to vanish, for future generations to dig beneath a desert and wonder who we were? The desert is a patient keeper. It hides its secrets carefully. You can stand directly on top of a buried city and never know it. That's why modern science has become so crucial in revealing what lies beneath. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite imaging, even drones have begun to peel back the layers of sand. What we've found so far is astonishing. Beneath the Sahara alone, scientists have identified structures that appear far too geometric to be natural. Straight lines. Perfect circles. Rectangular patterns. Could they be natural rock formations? Maybe. But many researchers believe we are looking at the fingerprints of forgotten civilizations. And the Sahara, as it turns out, hasn't always been a desert. This might shock you. Today, it's the largest hot desert in the world, stretching across North Africa like an ocean of sand. But go back far enough in time, and it was green. Not just a little green, but filled with lakes, rivers, and grasslands. Around 10,000 years ago, during what scientists call the African humid period, the Sahara was alive. It was a place where animals roamed, plants thrived, and yes, humans built settlements. We've found rock art showing cattle, hunters, and people dancing. These weren't just wanderers. They were communities. So, what happened? Climate. The earth shifted. The rain stopped. Slowly, the grasslands turned to dust, the rivers dried up, and the sand marched in. The people were forced to leave, abandoning their homes. Some traveled toward the Nile, fueling the rise of Egyptian civilization. Others vanished into history. But here's the question, what did they leave behind? And how much of it still lies under those dunes, waiting to be uncovered? Now, let's pause for just a moment and ask you something directly. If you could choose, would you rather see archaeologists uncover a lost desert city completely intact, with streets, temples, and houses still preserved under the sand, or would you prefer to keep the mystery alive, untouched, forever hidden? Tell me in the comments, I'd love to hear how you feel about it. Because that's the paradox of lost cities. We are desperate to know. But the more we uncover, the less mysterious they become. Part of their magic is in the not knowing. In the idea that somewhere, under an endless sea of sand, there might be an entire world just waiting. And yet, every discovery brings us closer to understanding who we are. The lost cities beneath the desert are not just about the past. They are about us, our fragility, our resilience, our ambition, and our mistakes. They show us how civilizations rise, how they thrive, and how, sometimes, they collapse. So when we speak of a lost city buried beneath the desert sands, we are speaking not just of stones and ruins, but of stories. Stories of people like you and me, who once called these impossible places home. The desert is full of silence, but if you listen carefully, it almost feels as though you can hear whispers. Whispers of voices that once filled marketplaces, of prayers that once echoed in temples, of laughter that once drifted through courtyards. And among all the lost cities the world has ever known, few capture the imagination quite like Petra. Petra is not buried under sand, but carved into rose-red cliffs. Hidden away in the deserts of Jordan, it remained unknown to the outside world for centuries. To the Bedouin tribes who lived nearby, it was a sacred secret. They believed great spirits guarded it. When European explorers finally stumbled upon it in the 19th century, they were stunned. Imagine walking through a narrow canyon, the walls towering high above you, so close they almost touch. You turn a corner, and suddenly, there it is, the treasury. A massive temple carved straight into the rock, its columns and statues still standing after 2,000 years. Petra was once a thriving city of traders, connecting the east and west. Caravans brought silk, spices, and incense. Wealth poured in. But eventually, trade routes shifted. Earthquakes struck. And the city was abandoned. For centuries, it waited, hidden by its cliffs and guarded by the desert. When we talk about lost cities beneath the desert, Petra shows us what survival looks like. It teaches us that the desert can hide, but also preserve. But Petra is only one jewel in the desert's crown. Travel further west, across the sands of Mali, and you'll find another city that almost slipped into oblivion, Timbuktu. Today, the very name is a synonym for the middle of nowhere. But in its golden age, Timbuktu was a center of knowledge, wealth, and culture. Scholars gathered there. Libraries filled with manuscripts that contained science, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. It was a place where knowledge was treasured as much as gold. And yet, Timbuktu too nearly disappeared into the desert. Sand swallowed roads, trade dwindled, invaders came and went. For many years, the world thought of it only as a myth. A name whispered in old travel tales. It was only when explorers braved the harsh Sahara that Timbuktu's reality was revealed. What's haunting about Timbuktu is how fragile its survival has been. Even today, its ancient manuscripts face threats from war, looting, and the desert itself. Its survival hangs by a thread, reminding us that history can vanish not only under sand but also under human carelessness. Now imagine the Arabian desert, stretching vast and endless. Here lies one of the most mysterious lost cities, once known as Iram of the Pillars. Some believe it was Ubar, the Atlantis of the sands I mentioned earlier. But in legend, Iram was said to be a magnificent city with towering pillars, so wealthy and so proud that it defied the heavens. And then, it was gone. The Quran speaks of it as a city destroyed by divine punishment, its people wiped away. For centuries, skeptics thought it was a myth. But then satellite technology revealed tracks ancient caravan routes leading to a site where ruins lay buried. Could it be Iram? Could it be the city once thought lost to both time and God's wrath? The sands conceal, but they also reveal, slowly, when we learn to look differently. Think of this, satellites orbiting hundreds of kilometers above Earth can now detect structures buried beneath the desert that human eyes cannot. Archaeologists studying satellite images have found shapes under the Sahara that resemble ancient rivers, dried lakebeds, even what appear to be cities. Imagine the thrill of staring at a computer screen and realizing that under miles of sand lies a lost world. It's like being an explorer without leaving your chair. And the Sahara is not alone in its secrets. Across the deserts of Peru, mysterious geoglyphs, the Nazca lines, stretch for miles, etched into the earth. They're not cities, but they remind us how much human history the desert can hide in plain sight. Enormous figures of animals and shapes, only visible from above, left by a people whose lives we barely understand. Why did they make them? How did they survive in such a barren place? And what else lies beneath those same sands, waiting to be uncovered? The deserts of Central Asia hold stories just as strange. In the sands of Turkmenistan, the ruins of Merv once stood as one of the greatest cities on Earth. Today, it is almost forgotten. But at its height, Merv was said to be the largest city in the world, home to hundreds of thousands of people, thriving as a jewel of the Silk Road. Merchants came from Persia, China, and India, bringing silks, spices, and stories. But invasions and destruction reduced it to dust. The desert swallowed its remains, and now all that's left are broken walls, scattered across a wasteland of sand and silence. Each of these cities tells the same truth: the desert is not empty. It is full of ghosts. Full of civilizations that once believed they were eternal, but who, in the end, were no match for time, climate, or the endless patience of the dunes. But here's what makes the story even more fascinating. These cities may be gone, but they're not gone forever. Technology has given us new eyes. Drones can now map vast stretches of desert, revealing patterns invisible to humans on the ground. Ground-penetrating radar can send signals beneath the sand and detect walls, streets, and even underground chambers. And every time we find something, it shakes our understanding of history. It forces us to ask, how much do we really know about the civilizations that came before us? Because think about it. For every Petra, every Timbuktu, every Ubar that we've uncovered, how many more are still buried, waiting? How many entire cities lie beneath dunes, perfectly preserved like time capsules? How many stories, inventions, and secrets of the past are still hidden, erased from memory but not from the earth itself? The more we learn, the stranger it becomes. In the Sahara, archaeologists have found stone structures that predate the pyramids. Burial sites with artifacts hinting at complex cultures long before we thought advanced civilizations existed there. Some researchers even wonder, could the Sahara itself hide an entire unknown civilization, a people whose name has been erased? When you look at the desert with that thought in mind, it changes everything. The dunes stop being just sand. They become veils, curtains covering forgotten theaters of human life. Every gust of wind that shifts the sand could be uncovering a fragment of pottery, a piece of bone, or a doorway that hasn't seen sunlight in thousands of years. It's humbling. It makes us realize that history isn't neat or complete. It's fragmented. It's scattered. And the desert is holding pieces of it like a library where most of the shelves are still sealed shut. The Sahara today is a land of emptiness, stretching as far as the eye can see. An endless desert of dunes, shimmering heat, and silence. But here's the part that never fails to shock people: the Sahara hasn't always been like this. Not even close. 10,000 years ago, this same desert was alive. Picture it. Instead of bare sand, there were rivers cutting across the land. Instead of barren dunes, there were lakes where hippos bathed and crocodiles lurked. Instead of silence, you would hear birds, the rush of water, and the voices of people. This was the Green Sahara, a period when rainfall transformed what is now the harshest desert on Earth into a paradise of life. We know this because archaeologists have found astonishing evidence. Rock art carved into cliffs, showing giraffes, elephants, cattle, and even people swimming. Fossils of fish and shells buried deep under the sand, proof that lakes once covered areas that are now bone-dry. Ancient tools and pottery scattered across dunes, suggesting that entire communities lived and thrived here. The Sahara wasn't just green. It was home. But then, slowly, the climate shifted. The rains disappeared. Lakes dried up. Rivers vanished. And the desert began its march, swallowing everything in its path. Imagine what that must have felt like for the people living there. One generation might have watched the grasslands turn brown. The next saw the lakes shrink. And then, one day, the water was gone. Imagine watching your world die before your eyes, knowing you had to leave your home behind. Some of these people moved east, toward the Nile, helping to fuel the rise of ancient Egypt. Others likely traveled farther south, or west, carrying their traditions with them. But what about the settlements they left behind? Did they abandon villages that were later buried by shifting dunes? Did entire cities simply vanish under the advancing sands? The Sahara, as vast as it is, may well be hiding the answers. And here is where things become even more mysterious. In recent years, scientists using satellite imagery have discovered shapes beneath the desert that look strikingly artificial. Perfectly straight lines. Symmetrical circles. Rectangular patterns too precise to be made by nature alone. Some researchers suggest these could be the remains of ancient rivers or natural rock formations. But others believe they might be the fingerprints of forgotten civilizations, entire communities we have never heard of, erased from history. This idea has fueled theories about a lost civilization of the Sahara. Some people even call it a kind of African Atlantis. Could it be that before Egypt, before Mesopotamia, there was another great civilization thriving in the heart of the Sahara? A civilization that collapsed when the rain stopped, its people forced to scatter, its cities buried? It sounds like science fiction, but the evidence keeps piling up that something extraordinary once happened here. Take the mysterious Rikat structure in Mauritania, often called the Eye of the Sahara. From the ground, it looks like a series of rocky ridges. But from space, it's breathtaking, a set of perfect concentric circles, like a massive bullseye carved into the desert. For years, scientists debated what it was. A meteor impact? A volcanic dome? Or something else? Some fringe theorists even believe it might be the remains of Atlantis itself. While mainstream science explains it as a natural geological formation, its sheer scale and strangeness remind us of how little we truly know about what lies beneath the Sahara. And the Sahara isn't the only desert holding secrets. Across Arabia, archaeologists have been making discoveries that rewrite history. In Saudi Arabia, massive stone structures called mustabils have been found scattered across the desert. They're thousands of years old, older than the pyramids, and no one fully knows what they were used for. Some stretch hundreds of meters long, built from carefully placed stones. Were they temples? Ritual sites? Or something else entirely? The desert has hidden them for millennia, and only now are we beginning to see their scale. Each discovery makes us wonder how much more is still buried. And here's the most astonishing part: we've only explored a fraction of these deserts. Most of the Sahara, the Arabian Peninsula, and Central Asian deserts remain untouched by serious excavation. Beneath those sands could be countless ruins, towns, and cities, perfectly preserved, waiting for the right moment or the right technology to be uncovered. And this is where modern tools are changing everything. Satellites can scan thousands of square kilometers in hours. Drones can swoop low and detect patterns invisible to the naked eye. Ground-penetrating radar can send signals deep below the sand, mapping what lies hidden. In the past decade alone, these tools have revealed entire river systems beneath the Sahara, ancient trade routes across Arabia, and hidden tombs under Egyptian dunes. It's like peeling back layers of time, one scan at a time. But the deserts hold more than ruins. They hold warnings. Every city buried under the sands tells the same story, a story of rise and fall. Of people who thought their civilizations would last forever, only to be undone by forces greater than themselves. Climate change. War. Greed. Arrogance. The sands remind us that no matter how great we think we are, nature and time are always greater. And that's one reason why stories of lost desert cities feel so haunting. They're not just about the past. They're about us. About the fragility of our own world. About the possibility that one day, our cities, too, could be ruins buried beneath shifting sands. Think about that for a moment. The desert may look empty, but it's really a mirror. It reflects back the truth of human ambition, how we build, how we thrive, and how we sometimes fall. And perhaps, if we listen to the whispers of the sands, we can learn not to repeat the same mistakes. By now, you might be feeling the same awe that I feel every time I read about these discoveries. That sense of wonder, of curiosity, of standing on the edge of the unknown. That's exactly why we created World's Echoes, to share stories like these, to travel deep into mysteries that connect us to the past, and to remind ourselves how much there is still to learn. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and join our journey, because this is only the beginning. Egypt is perhaps the best reminder of how the desert both hides and protects the past. When we think of Egypt, we think of pyramids rising proudly above the sands, of the Sphinx staring across the desert with its silent gaze. But here's the truth, the pyramids and temples we see today are just a fraction of what's still out there. In 2011, archaeologists using satellite imagery announced a discovery that stunned the world. Hidden beneath the sands of Egypt were 17 unknown pyramids, thousands of tombs, and over 3,000 ancient settlements. Think about that for a moment. 17 pyramids, not small structures but massive monuments, completely buried, invisible to the naked eye. For centuries, people had walked right over them, never realizing what lay just a few feet beneath. It was a reminder that even in the most studied desert on Earth, we've only scratched the surface. And then there are the tombs. Egypt's Valley of the Kings is famous for the treasures of Tutankhamun, but thousands of burial sites remain undiscovered. The desert hides them like secrets. Sometimes a shifting dune reveals a fragment of a wall, a broken jar, or a faint carving. Each clue leads to another, and slowly, entire tombs emerge. For archaeologists, the desert is both a challenge and a gift. It hides their treasures well, but it preserves them like nothing else. Papyrus scrolls, wooden coffins, even bread and beer have survived for thousands of years because of the dry sands. But Egypt is not alone in its secrets. Across the Middle East, deserts conceal the remains of empires that once shaped history. In Syria and Iraq, ancient cities like Palmyra and Babylon once thrived in the desert landscape. Palmyra, known as the Bride of the Desert, was a jewel of trade, where caravans carried silk and spices from the east to the west. Its grand colonnades and temples dazzled travelers for centuries. But war and shifting sands nearly erased it. Standing among its ruins today, you feel the weight of time, the silence of a place that once pulsed with life. And in Iran, beneath the deserts of Persia, lie ancient qanats, underground aqueducts built thousands of years ago to bring water to dry lands. Some still function today, a testament to the genius of civilizations that mastered survival in impossible places. These tunnels stretch for miles beneath the sand, unseen, keeping entire cities alive in the desert. They remind us that survival in harsh lands is not just about building walls, but about building systems that can endure. Further east, in the deserts of China, lies yet another forgotten world. The Taklamakan Desert is one of the harshest on Earth, but hidden beneath its sands are cities of the Silk Road. Lulan, once a thriving city, now lies abandoned, its ruins preserved under shifting dunes. Explorers in the 20th century uncovered mummies with clothes so well preserved you could still see their colors. Some of these mummies were thousands of years old, but their hair, skin, and clothing remained almost intact. The desert had mummified them naturally, freezing them in time. It was as though the sands themselves refused to let go of their secrets. But perhaps one of the most haunting desert ruins is Hatra, in modern-day Iraq. Once a powerful fortress city, it stood as a center of religion and culture, with massive walls and towering temples. For centuries it withstood invasions, its defenses strong. But in the end, like so many others, it was abandoned. Today, the desert winds whistle through its ruins, and the stones stand as silent witnesses to the passage of empires. All of these discoveries, whether pyramids in Egypt, qanats in Persia, or mummies in the Taklamakan, have one thing in common: they remind us that deserts are not wastelands. They are archives. Every grain of sand is like a page in a history book, waiting to be turned. And technology is finally giving us the tools to read those pages. Consider LiDAR, a laser technology that has revolutionized archaeology in rainforests by piercing through thick vegetation to reveal hidden cities. In the desert, LiDAR and radar are even more effective, cutting through sand to expose geometric patterns beneath. In just the past decade, LiDAR has revealed hundreds of ancient structures across the Middle East and North Africa. Some are small villages and farms. Others are massive complexes that suggest organized, thriving societies. And satellites, those silent eyes orbiting far above us, are proving to be some of the greatest explorers of all. They can detect subtle differences in soil, moisture, and even vegetation that indicate something buried below. A faint line of green in the desert might mean water, and where there is water, there was once life. And where there was life, there may be ruins. Every time a new discovery is announced, it feels like a crack opening in the wall of time. Suddenly, we glimpse a world we thought was lost forever. And yet, each discovery leaves us with even bigger questions. How many more cities lie hidden? How many stories are still buried? And will we ever uncover them all, or will the desert keep some of its secrets forever? That's part of the magic. The desert never reveals everything at once. It gives us fragments, walls here, pottery there, a half-buried statue or a forgotten inscription. Piece by piece, we try to assemble the puzzle. But the puzzle is vast, and the pieces are scattered across thousands of miles of sand. And maybe that's why we're so fascinated by lost desert cities. They remind us of the impermanence of human achievement. They show us that even the greatest civilizations can fall, and that in the end, the desert will always win. The sands shift, the winds blow, and time erases even the proudest empires. But at the same time, they also remind us of resilience. The fact that fragments still survive, that a temple wall, a painted jar, or a carved inscription can endure thousands of years is astonishing. It shows us that while time can bury, it cannot completely destroy. The voices of the past still echo, faint but clear, through the sands. And that is why we continue to search. Why archaeologists brave scorching heat, endless dunes, and harsh conditions. Why scientists pore over satellite images, hoping to glimpse a forgotten outline. Because each discovery brings us closer to understanding where we came from. And perhaps, it brings us closer to understanding where we are going. The desert doesn't just hold ruins. It holds lessons. Lessons about survival, about collapse, and about the delicate balance between humanity and nature. When we study lost desert cities, we're not just looking back. We're looking forward, learning how to avoid repeating the same mistakes, and how to ensure our own cities don't one day become ruins beneath the sand. And that's why I want to pause here, just for a second, and remind you, if you're fascinated by these journeys into the forgotten, if you love exploring the echoes of worlds long gone, make sure to subscribe to World's Echoes. Because together, we'll keep uncovering these mysteries, one story at a time. And so, as we step back from the golden sands and the echoes of a civilization swallowed by time, one truth becomes clear: the desert is not just empty. It is alive with memory, with whispers of people who once built, dreamed, and thrived where now only silence remains. Every grain of sand could be hiding a secret. Every dune could be guarding a story waiting to be told. And maybe, just maybe, some of those stories still have the power to reshape everything we think we know about our past. The lost city beneath the desert sands is more than just stone walls and forgotten streets. It is proof that history is fragile, that civilizations can rise to greatness and vanish into dust, leaving behind mysteries that outlive their creators. And as long as deserts stretch across the earth, there will always be questions buried just beneath the surface. That's the beauty of exploration. It reminds us that the world is far older, far stranger, and far more astonishing than we could ever imagine. It invites us to look closer, to wonder, and to keep searching for the stories still waiting to be found. If you've made it this far into the journey, thank you for walking with me through time, across landscapes of silence, and into the heart of one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. And if this story sparked your imagination, if it made you pause and think about the sands beneath your feet and the secrets they might be holding, then I'd love for you to become part of this community. Make sure to like this video, share it with someone who loves mysteries as much as you do, and most importantly, subscribe to World's Echoes. Because there are countless more stories hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered together. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive, keep asking questions, and remember, the world still holds echoes of the past, and they are calling out to us to listen.